the difference between a ballistic missile. So what makes it ballistic is this parabolic trajectory. Like maybe you studied in math class or algebra what a parabola is, or maybe in physics you've studied a parabolic trajectory because of the force of gravity. You have this parabolic trajectory. That's what a ballistic missile does. And why is it a parabolic trajectory? Because these missiles have a launch phase. So like even the most advanced ballistic missiles, like the ICBMs, the intercontinental ballistic missiles that are used to launch warheads or to deliver a warhead payload. The way that those work is that there's a rocket that is in the launch phase, it's blasting off, right? And then after that launch phase going up like this, then the payload is released. The warhead is released, and then that is what's making the rest of the journey, but it's going in a parabolic trajectory. And after the launch phase, you can't really control that trajectory. It's just mainly being guided by gravity. And it goes in this parabola. And it has to go very high, obviously. The longer the distance that you have to hit, the steeper the parabola has to be. So some of these missiles are actually going into space before they are able to reach their target. Like the ICBMs, the intercontinental ballistic missiles, they actually have to go into space because they're going intercontinental. You're trying to hit a different continent. So that's the ballistic missile. Okay, the hypersonic, it has nothing to do necessarily with the speed. If you're going that high anyway in that kind of parabola, you're going to be going faster than Mach 5. Mach 5 is mean like a mile a second, or like over 1 kilometer a second. That's the speed. Fast, 5 times faster than the speed of sound. Now, the hypersonic missiles that have been developed by China, by Russia, and now Iran, they are this red line. This red trajectory. They are flying much closer to the Earth, and they are much more maneuverable. They can be maneuvered well after the launch phase. You can maneuver them, and so they are much more tricky to predict where they're actually going to hit. Are you starting to see now? If you have a parabolic trajectory with the ballistic missiles, the blue line there, it's a simple calculation. You know, if you know high school math, you know algebra, you can actually do the calculation. Maybe you need some physics knowledge as well to know how to, you know, look at the velocity, knowing the gravitational constant, etc., to calculate the parabolic trajectory. Even a high school student can do it, but you have these computers that are calculating that once the ballistic missile is detected by the radar, and then the counter missile from like the Iron Dome or the THAAD air defense systems that the United States uses, once it's detected by the ballistic missile is detected by the radar, then it calculates the trajectory, and then it sends a counter missile and guides it to intercept the ballistic missile. Do you see how that works? It's a simple calculation, but obviously the software is sophisticated, and that's the brain behind the Iron Dome. It's not like, you know, it's very simple to understand technology. But look at in this image here, the ballistic missile, because it has to take a parabolic trajectory, it gets detected by radar much earlier. You know, look at this in the top left where it says detected by radar in the top left of this chart, because that's the radar system. It can detect it much earlier. When these hypersonic missiles travel, they're closer to the ground, they get detected much later. And they're maneuverable. So even if you detect them, you can't predict where they're going to go, where they're actually going to go, because they can still, at the last minute, change their trajectory. Like literally in the last minute, in the last 60 seconds, in the last 30 seconds. That makes it impossible to send an interceptor. In fact, if you send an interceptor, you're potentially going to, the missile is going to land on your own territory and potentially strike your own population or your own critical infrastructure. So you can't intercept these highly maneuverable hypersonic missiles because of the glider trajectory. That's the difference. That's why the Iron Dome is useless. That's why the THAAD systems that the US military has are useless against this specific technology. And this is why China and Russia developed this technology. They developed this technology specifically to avoid the US defenses. And what's shocking to me, I didn't realize this, the US doesn't have these kinds of hypersonic maneuverable missiles. They don't have them. That's very strange and shocking to me. And the reason that they don't have them is that they never felt the need to develop them. They never felt the need to develop such missiles because they've been bombing villagers in Afghanistan. They've been drone striking these Iraqi people in Iraq. They've been drone striking the people of Libya and Yemen who don't have air defense systems to block these types of strikes. So the US has just languished in this type of banal complacency. You know, imagine a banal, complacent terrorist that is just so, you know, sitting there drone striking innocent Muslim women and children for the past 20 years. They've become complacent. There hasn't been any kind of advanced defense system for Muslims to protect themselves as the U.S. Commits these atrocities and these war crimes against the Muslim people. So they haven't had the need to develop. They haven't had the need to develop the hypersonic maneuverable missiles, but Russia has developed them, China has developed them, and now Iran has developed them. So this is a game changer. It is a game changer. And what Iran has done is they have demonstrated that they can hit your most secure air bases, your most secure locations, because there's also reports that they struck Mossad headquarters. Imagine that. Mossad headquarters. That's like if someone says that, oh, Iran hit the CIA headquarters, Langley, or hit the Pentagon. Imagine like how shocking that would be. And Mossad headquarters is far more secure and defended because of the Iron Dome than even US airspace. So it is shocking, and it is a huge change in the dynamic if it's confirmed that Iran was able to hit Mossad headquarters. It's been confirmed that they've hit the Nevatim air base and 5 other or even 10 other air bases. They're able to strike them with these missiles. That completely changes the game, because what that means is that Israel, first of all, Israel doesn't have the hypersonic missile capabilities that Iran does. They have to rely on the ballistic missiles, and Iran has apparently some kind of air defense systems that Russia has given them that could be used if Israel, for example, sends a nuke. They have to send it through one of these ballistic missiles. They have Jericho missiles. Jericho missiles are conventional ballistic missiles. They follow the parabolic trajectory. They can be intercepted. Iran also has air capabilities. They have fighter jets that can intercept any kind of Israeli fighter jet or bomber that tries to penetrate Iranian airspace. But the danger for Israel is that as soon as they try to strike Iran in this way, Iran, even before those Israeli fighter jets can get to Iranian airspace, or even before the ballistic missile can have that huge long parabolic trajectory to hit Iran, or the US, for example, from naval ships in the Mediterranean has the time for that parabolic trajectory to hit Iran, they can launch these hypersonic missiles and reach Tel Aviv and these air bases faster. So even if the Israeli fighter jets are trying to get to Iran, they won't have anything to return back to because the air bases will be obliterated. The air bases will be obliterated. Those fighter jets will have nowhere to go back to. That's the strategic advantage that Iran has now demonstrated. They hadn't demonstrated it before, because if you remember the attack that they, or the response attack that they had in April, there's a larger number of those missiles that were intercepted, but those were more conventional ballistic missiles. They weren't these hypersonic ones that they have developed. They just basically unveiled these missiles yesterday. So it changes the game. It's extremely significant. And the main thing is that there is a qualitative military advantage that Iran has, as they have demonstrated, that Israel and the United States do not have. Israel and its allies, its European allies and the United States, they do not have this capability. That is a qualitative military edge. And it changes the game. This is exactly what we wanted to see. This is exactly what we wanted to see because it's a deterrent.